Hey everybody, good morning. If I'm live on Twitch, that means it's Saturday morning. It's early on the West Coast, 8 a.m. and 11 Eastern on the East Coast. Hello to all you on the VODs, because I know a lot of people don't always make the live. I appreciate it if you do. If you happen to make the live, you get to hang out with us live, ask questions, talk, chatter, and all that stuff. I love it. But if you're on VOD, I really appreciate you taking your time to watch the show on YouTube. Good morning, Reliving Retro. Speaking of other podcasts, welcome, my fellow Jet fans as well. Today is going to be a really good episode. Obviously, we just have Gordon Freeman as a guest, but he's not the real guest. We're doing one of those really kind of retrospective look back episodes with me today. It's just you and I. So feel free to shoot up some chatters, ask some questions, because you are the guest host today. Everyone that's watching. I will answer Reliving Retro's question, Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr. I mean, I will only take Aaron Rodgers if he commits to 2 seasons. I don't want him for 1 season, and I kind of lean towards Derek Carr because he's younger. Anyway, I don't want to get into football all day because I could talk about that for hours. But today's a really cool episode. Today, we are talking about a little bit of the history of the CRT television and how it's impacted gaming back in the day up to the modern day, and how retro gaming has brought a resurgence in the CRT technology that we were so fond of as kids. So I thought this would be a really fun episode to walk through a little bit of the history of how televisions with the cathode ray tube, or I probably said that wrong, even started. And again, I always say this and caveat, I am no way, shape, or form a historian. I did my research, and I will do my best to showcase a little bit of the history of the CRT television as far as I know, as it comes to researching it. But let's get started. I have some dirty laundry, and when I say dirty laundry, I just mean just your run-of-the-mill stuff. We do have merch now. I don't want to shove this down people's throats and stuff, but if you're interested, there's the merch button down on my About Me page. We have Cafe BTW shirts, which are being sold by the designer that created all my logos and everything you see on screen here, including the background, which has got that like cityscape with the color you see on my screen. His name is Daniel Napoli. He's an excellent artist. And if you're interested and you want to support the show, feel free to grab a Cafe BTW shirt. They're really nice. I mean, we gave one away last week. And if you're interested in just representing my show, I've never been a big merch pusher, but we have it. If you want it, they're pretty cool. I got actually a printed one, and yeah. So are we jumping? Not yet. We might jump later. What's up, DMC PCRT? Good to see you, my friend. I love how everyone's using commands already. A couple of things I want to talk about too is I've been, before we get into the topic today, I've been really diving deep into AI technology. And I recently found this AI image technology called Midjourney, and I've been really impressed by it. And I asked it to draw this. So I asked AI to say, draw a high-resolution image of a retro gaming collecting room in a post-apocalyptic setting. The room should contain a variety of vintage gaming consoles, games, and other gaming-related items. Shows signs of destruction and decay in the environment, such as broken windows, debris, and crumbling walls to convey the feeling of the world in ruin. Emphasize the contrast between the nostalgia and excitement of a retro gaming collection and the chaos and destruction of the apocalypse. And this is the beautiful photo that AI drew. And I think I was just blown away by it. I shared it across social media too. But this wasn't an artist. This wasn't a human. This was a computer intelligence that drew this wonderful piece of art. I almost want to take it and turn it into a t-shirt, because this is like a fantastic thing. And what I like about this photo is it's not necessarily our timeline or our world. I feel like it's some like outer world universe where they had their own versions of what retro gaming stuff looks like. And you kind of see some random stuff, which looks like a VHS tape over here. There's this weird like pedal controller. You got some odd button controller here, some tablet there. And then outside, it looks like there's a lot of decay and stuff like that. So I just wanted to showcase. And now I have all these photos here are done by AI. I asked AI to do like a futuristic looking retro gaming room. Like these are not drawn by a human. These are drawn by literally AI in seconds. And I don't know if that scares you. This one's my favorite because it's like I said, draw a picture of a retro gamer in the apocalypse being chased by zombies, and it drew this incredible photo. But I wanted to showcase this AI stuff because I've been blown away by it. Um, my girlfriend hates oranges, and her ethnic background is Vietnamese. So we did a picture of, which reminds me of my girlfriend running away from oranges because she hates oranges for some reason. So I had AI draw that. This one's really cool. Look at these. Like this is all me asking AI to draw photos, and it's this one. This one is really cool. This is like I asked AI to draw animals playing retro games in a post-apocalyptic world, and I got this photo, and I'm like, wow, that is incredible. Like, and what's up, Biff? Good to see you, man. My fellow Canadian. How are you, sir? Are the Canadians doing well this year? I don't know. But I'm just blown away by AI. Actually, DMC, I actually, DMC PCRT is a big Lions fan, and I actually, just for fun, asked him to draw the Lions fans in a post-apocalyptic world, and I thought that was really cool. I love wrestling, so I asked them to draw like wrestling in the future in a post-apocalyptic. I love post-apocalyptic stuff. This one's really funny. I asked them to do cavemen playing retro video games, and I got this. I also love Deadpool, so I had AI draw some Deadpool concepts. What's funny about AI is AI can't comprehend and write text the right way. So you could see it's like trying to spell Deadpool, but it didn't do it quite right. But I thought that was cool. Here's some more cavemen stuff I liked. I thought that was cool. Here's Mr. Bean. I asked it to draw Mr. Bean. Yeah, the caveman TV stuff looks really cool. There's a couple of ones here that are pretty neat. Like this is just ridiculous. I wanted to showcase this because I mean it's worth talking about. There's a lot of people there's a lot of controversy with the AI thing, but anyway, I digress. Also today, really excited. Now that the pandemic is kind of like, subsiding, I think we're going to events again, and this awesome retro store in Burbank, California, out here where I live, is called Game Realms. And once a month, they have what's called a retro game swap, where other retro gaming stores in SoCal, vendors, retro hunters set up. And it's a little like kind of like swap meet. Right in the back of the store, they have this little area. So I will be there today. I'm going to be shooting some content there. I'm not going to be spending a lot of money, but what I am going to be focused on today is I'm going to take $50 and I'm going to see how many Game Gear games I could find for $50. So, and that's my focus today. I've been collecting Game Gear because you know why? Game Gear is still a very collectible item because they're still very affordable. Like Game Gear games are $5, $8 to $15. There's some that are more than that, but I'm really cool. Hey, Mikey, I'm really excited to give them love. They're an awesome retro store here in California. So I will be at the Retro Game Swap, and shout out to Manny Arcade, who's a fellow TikTok friend of mine who will be there, and we're going to see each other. Love seeing friends that, I meet in the community. But check out, I'll be posting some content later, but I just wanted to support Game Realms because they're an awesome retro shop, and they do this really awesome community thing where, they invite, vendors and people to be part of the show. It's called the Valley Retro Game Shop. And why is it called the Valley Retro Game Shop? Because it's in the San Fernando Valley here in Los Angeles. When are you coming back to New York, New Jersey? I only come back once a year, guys. So you'll only see me around like Thanksgiving. And even when I come home for Thanksgiving, I'm not there for very long. That said, I will let you know when I do come. But lately, when I've been coming back east, it's been really quick. Shout out to TNC Surf Champion for 2022 Cafe BTW. What's up, Will? Welcome to the chat too, man. Good to see you this morning. But yeah, just so you know, I'll be at the Valley Retro Game Swap today at noon here in California. So just a few hours. Really excited to catch up with some of my retro gaming friends in the SoCal area. I'm a type of guy that loves to connect and network and be merry in the retro gaming community. So if you happen to be in Burbank, stop by around noon. I'll be there. You'll see me in my Twitch hat, so you'll know where to go. Biff says TNC Legend. Let me get that on screen here. Let me get that on screen. Let's see here. Hold on, my feature chat's not working. What's going on here? Here we go. So Biff says, what does he say? I got a new program, guys, that I can highlight chats in my stream now, which I never really did before. And Biff says to me, let's see, did that work? I guess it didn't work. Okay. It's not showing it on screen. I'm sorry, guys. I thought this was going to work. Guess it's not going to work. I have like this chat highlight thing, and it's not highlighting it. Whatever. Let's see if this one works. Hold on. Let me try this real quick. If not, I'm just going to move on from this chat thing because it's not working for me. All right, screw this thing. It's obviously not working. All right, that said, I hope everyone is ready for a weekend. Well, let's get into the topic at hand today, because what I'm going to be doing today is we're going to be talking about the CRT history. So I'm going to try to explain what is a CRT, how did they start, where did it begin, and as a retro gamer, and I know a lot of retro gamers in this chat are probably really, really tied to CRT televisions, love CRT televisions, and stuff like that. So, one thing I love is what we're going to do in this in kind of three parts. The first part is we're going to talk about the history of the CRT, how did it start. In the middle, we're going to talk about how CRTs were adapted and televisions were adapted in homes and the impact it had on video games in general, from the Magnavox Odyssey all the way up to the 90s to the 2000s when there was a kind of like a switch in technology where people started dumping their CRTs for LCDs, and then to go as far to modern day today, the resurgence of the CRT television in the retro gaming community. So there's been this like really, really interesting history of the CRT television. And I think it's definitely a really cool topic that we never really took seriously, and we're like, let's dive into this. So remember, I am no way, shape, or form a historian, but did a little research. So we're going to try to break this down with some videos, explanation of the cathode ray tube. The cathode ray tube, I'm going to say it correctly. What is a CRT? Well, let's break down, what does it mean? So in context of electronics, the CRT stands for cathode ray tube. It's a technical term for the glass picture tube inside a vintage TV set or computer monitor, the kind used before the flat screen displays became common. CRTs are electric image display devices that have advantage of showing information dramatically without the need of moving parts. Really, really like just reading the definition of a CRT, really detailed technology and just really remarkable technology for when it was started. But this is going to surprise you. So the technology goes as far back as 1855. A German guy named Heinrich invents the Giesler tube. I'm probably butchering that. Created using his mercury pump that was first used as a vacuum tube, later modified, and brought, and as you can see, these are the timelines, but what we're going to focus on is this dude. So this dude and his wonderful, look at these guys are important to your history and why you have a CRT television at home. And this guy, look how well dressed he is. I mean, this is old school. I wish I could walk around like this guy. But this is a gentleman, and let me pull up his picture again while I read a little bit of a definition. So the cathode ray tube was discovered by this gentleman, Julius Plucker, and his colleague, Johann Hittorf. And Hittorf observed that some unknown rays were emitted from the cathode negative electrode, which caused and cast a shadow on a glowing wall of the tube, indicating rays were traveling in a straight line. In 1890, they demonstrated a cathode ray tube being deflected by electric fields, and William Crookes showed they could be deflected by magnetic fields in 1897. So really technical, because obviously this is very science heavy, but let's talk about Carl Ferdinand Braun, who's a very, very important guy in just the history of the CRT television. DMC CRT says, "What's wrong? What's wrong? It was founded by Ray T." The CRT inventor looks like a magician neighbor of the Venture Brothers. Oh, I love that cartoon. Oh man. So Carl, this guy with the wonderful beard here, created the earliest version of the CRT, which is known as the Braun tube, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. This is a very early version of what a CRT looks like. It was called the Braun tube, invented by Ferdinand Braun in 1897. It was a cold cathode tube modification to the predecessor that we talked about just before, and Braun was the first to conceive the use of a CRT as a display device. So that's where, I mean, we're going way back here. You know, we're going way, 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 way back. Now, I'm going to I found Sam Hogan on YouTube, and this is like a really good, informative kind of infographic. So let's watch this together. So hopefully it gives you a little bit more understanding of the technology.
Exactly is it? A cathode ray tube is a glass vacuum tube that a beam of electrons is shot through, known as the cathode ray. The electrons are emitted from an electron gun. An electron gun is made of a cathode, which is heated to emit electrons, and an anode, which focuses the electrons into a thin beam.
Look at that.
This beam easily travels through the vacuum and is illuminated by a screen coated in a fluorescent substance.
I mean, how do you even like decide that this is going to happen? Like, I don't understand science, and forgive me for not being like really. I think I'm a smart guy, right? But when it comes to science, man, I was terrible at science. Don't even get me started on chemistry. I was terrible because I don't think I'm good at math, and a lot of science takes math. But just seeing this technology,
this beam has a negative charge. It can be affected by magnets, which are used to bend the beam.
Look at that.
When done fast enough, an image can be displayed.
Holy moly.
Braun used his invention as a way to visualize patterns in electrical signals. Up until the 21st century, almost all displays, including TVs and computer monitors, used a cathode ray tube.
Crazy. So a technology they invented in literally the late 1800s was still a technology we used really far up to when like the LCD televisions took over, which we'll get into. Here's another good kind of example using a computer monitor, which are also CRT televisions. Give you an idea of how they work as well.
How does the monitor work? Signals from your computer's video card are loaded into 3 electron guns at the base of the monitor. There is one gun for each of 3 colors: red, blue, and green. These 3 colors, when mixed together, can create all the colors you see on your screen. Now, these guns don't...
So we just saw an example of the CRT emitting a black and white image, but as you can see, this is how they kind of formed the color images with these
shoot bullets. Instead, they shoot a powerful beam of electrons towards the face of the monitor. The beams pass through the deflection yoke. It uses magnetism to bend the electronic beams so they can sweep across the entire screen and create the picture we see.
It's so incredible. Like I'm like blown away that this... Like, what if no one invented the CRT? Like, would we have televisions today? I don't know. Like, it's really fascinating. And when I was doing my research, I was really fascinated by the people. So this gentleman, and excuse me if I butcher his wonderful name, this is the father of television in Japan, who developed the world's first practical electronic television in 1926, and his name is Dr. Kenjiro Takahanagi, and he is a very important piece in the history of television because he figured out how do we take the technology and actually make a practical use of it in a television form and figure out, okay, you have this technology, but what can we use it for? Another important person in this kind of development of the TV that a few years later, this is Philo Farnsworth, whose invention of the actual television prototype that was released in 1929, and that's a very early version of it. Now, you're probably wondering, like, what's the first time they broadcasted something on TV? So in the World's Fair in 1939, this is a video that pretty much showcased how a TV could broadcast a news report. And I'm going to play this for a little bit, but this is literally what the World's Fair showed the world on how a TV could broadcast news.
System. In an historic memorandum to RCA directors, he had this to say, quote, "I believe that television, which is the technical name for seeing as well as hearing by radio, will come to pass in due course," unquote. 16 years have passed since that visionary report. Now David Sarnoff is ready to introduce television to America and to the world as an industry and art, and not merely as a novelty as so many people have.
So now here's one of the earliest ads giving people an opportunity to see what could a television do for you at home. This is a 1941 advertisement called Magic in the Air. So let me play this for you.
Unless you happen to live in some parts of the country where, thanks to the newest marvel of modern science, television, you can just lean back in a comfortable chair in the theater or in your own favorite chair at home, relax and watch the game. Out at the stadium, the television cameramen are seeing to it that you can follow every detail of the game. They're out there on the sidelines following every important piece of action. Cables connect the cameras
so they're
with the mobile
telling
units,
people how does a TV broadcast
and
to you at home.
from these trucks, the scenes covered by the cameras are relayed to the main television transmitter. Now let's see what a television studio looks like.
Crazy.
It's
crazy. Like I love this stuff. Like I wish I could travel back in time and be a part of this sort of. Like it's so fascinating how television is like one of the greatest inventions in the world because we're still using it. It's still very much a part of our life. And, I don't know. And DMC PCRT says, and now we can make our own studio with a camera, cheap webcam, and internet connection. It's crazy. Absolutely. Great point, man. Great point. All right, moving along. After all this happens, the world mass adopts TVs. TVs become a part of a normal American home family and across the world, but we're going to focus on the American timeline here because that's where I'm from. But obviously television is well adapted. People are watching news, people are watching TV shows. The TV in your home is a normal, I guess it's not an appliance, but an entertainment system that you used to have radios in your house, right? But now people are actually watching televisions. Lost in the 80s and 90s says technology moves faster than anything else in life. It really does. And this really shows you how we mass adopted a technology that started from a little tube. Like when I showed you those guys in the nice suits and the really nice beards and the really nice kind of like steampunk outfits they were wearing. They were so important to what we take advantage of today, and we don't realize like where the CRT came from. So before you could talk about the CRT and how it's been so important to the gaming industry and why we love CRTs, you have to kind of learn a little bit about the technology itself. So I hope with what I've been kind of walking you through, obviously I'm not a historian like I always say, let's take what we learn now and let's go to the era of, video games and computers and why they used TVs in order to bring us the things we love. You had televisions first invented to broadcast news, television shows, but then when they started figuring out bringing video games to home, they used the television to broadcast those images, just like with computers too. They use the TV CRT monitor to broadcast images. And that's really where the rest of the history kind of just rolls out. Now, one of the earliest consoles, one that a lot of people might know and be familiar with, was the 1972. So now, we've gone through the 40s into the 50s, mass adoption of the CRT and the television in your home. There's this technology about video games, and the Magnavox Odyssey comes out in 1972 where you hook this thing up to your CRT at home and you play a physical game with your CRT. And this is kind of like the launch pad and the birth of us commonly buying video games and attaching them to our TV in order to play them. And this is where our love of video games and nostalgia today throw back to a time when TVs were so valuable, especially CRTs, to our video game enjoyment. Especially, you had the NES, you have the Genesis hooked up, and this reminds me of my bedroom back in like 1990s. Hooked up, I had this little 13-inch CRT television. I remember going to this store called Nobody Beats the Wiz, and I remember my dad buying me my first ever television. And he's like, your TV can't be more than 13 inches big. I'm only buying you a 13-inch television. I was like, I wasn't complaining because, putting a TV in a kid's room, a lot of my friends didn't have that. I was a very lucky kid to have a TV in my room because a lot of people had one TV that they shared in their living room, but my brother had a TV in his room. I had one in my room. I had the Genesis hooked up, and my brother had the Super NES hooked up. Nobody Beats the Wiz, best for CDs. Yes. DMC CRT 13-inch was a great size back in the day. It was perfect for my bedroom. So that was I actually still remember picking the TV out and my dad buying it. I think I just had turned 13, and that was my birthday present. And boy, I remember having the Genesis hooked out to it. Then we got the Sega CD and the 32X and stuff. And I was playing Night Trap in my room on that 13-inch television back on Sega CD days, and my Saturn and stuff like that. But it was just common for us to have a CRT. We had the NES, we had the Genesis hooked up to it. We had all that stuff all the way up to the Dreamcast, the Sony PlayStation, 2. And, things started this is where the evolution of the CRT started to change, because we had this CRT technology. It was great, but they were bulky, big televisions and took up a lot of space. Hey, what's up, dude? Good to see you. You kids get off my lawn, pretty much. Lost Annie says, my first TV was 13-inch color, but no remote. UHF VHF clicky turn channel. So we get into this timeline where LCDs, and I'm going to read this kind of little bit of a blurb for you all. The disposals of CRTs in the trash started becoming a widespread issue in the early 2000s as people switched to flat screen displays and digital TVs. The transition to digital TVs accelerated the phase out of CRTs, leading to the increase in the number of discarded CRTs that ended up in landfills. And listen to this. The heavy and fragile nature of a CRT made them difficult to dispose, obviously, and led to content in glass-posed environments and health hazards if not properly handled. As a result, many countries have implemented regulations for proper disposals of CRTs, including recycling of the lead and other hazardous materials. It's true, you're not supposed to throw electronics in the trash. You're supposed to actually recycle them, and they realized that people were tossing these CRTs left and right and causing a major problem with, there's a lot of hazardous materials on those old CDs. So there was a lot of problems there. But this picture right here is so recognizable because there was a time where people just had CRTs on the sidewalks. And hey, Jan, what's up? And Flair, thanks, man, for coming by too. Fist pump, not recommended. Hello, Jan. Good to see you. So this was like, I remember everyone was switching out of LCDs and they were just tossing CRTs. And literally, if you wanted a CRT, you literally could just walk around streets and look for CRTs in the trash. But people really just didn't care about them. They were just like, screw it, we're going to throw this out. And we're going to get to why that's kind of changed now and why the CRT is now like mostly respected in a sense by a lot of retro gamers because they want to play their video games the way they were. But this is kind of like, this brings back those memories of trashing your CRTs. And I look back on it, I threw out a CRT I probably shouldn't have thrown out. I do have one that I didn't throw out because I always wanted to keep playing my retro games that way. But this was common, and I don't know if a lot of people remember this, but people were tossing these left and right. I don't want to see your old CRT on my nature hike. It was an adventure moving those 36 CRTs. It was scary. I mean, you literally could throw out your back pretty bad if you didn't watch yourself. So then, the technology that we all know today, they had plasmas, but plasmas didn't really last. But LCD televisions are kind of the commonplace today. You know, I'm looking at LCD right now. You know, all that stuff. But the thing with LCDs is that when you hook up old consoles to these things, they weren't built right to display the old video game formats. CRTs were made especially for retro games because video games were made specifically for CRT television. So what I want to talk about now is kind of like the end topic here today. And pretty much this resurgence of the love of the CRT, the resurgence of people buying CRT televisions because they want to play retro games the way they remember them. So now you kind of like, if you go on TikTok, you go on Instagram, you go to IG Reels and all that stuff and YouTube, you got retro gamers with these collection room setups. They got their CRT set up. They have their NES hooked up. They're playing the NES live. Like last night on TikTok, I was playing TNC Surf Designs live with my 9-inch CRT because it just looks so beautiful to play your retro games on these televisions because they were made for them. You know, you hook up I was playing TNC and I was just looking at how beautiful the image quality was. It's so fascinating that LCDs just don't give you that quality you expect. But when you hook that baby up to an old television, you know, it's remarkably beautiful. Will says everything goes in 20-year intervals. CRTs died about 20 years ago. At least they started to. Absolutely. But now what I'm trying to get into is that, you know, everywhere I look, people are posting photos and videos of CRTs. This is an image of the CRT I was playing last night. I love this thing. It's a 9-inch Orion with a built-in DVD player. It's my baby. I moved to a smaller apartment here in LA, so I couldn't bring my 20-inch CRT here. But when I want to hook up some of my retro games, like I was playing my NES last night, but I hook up my Saturn, my Dreamcast, this baby amidst some beautiful images. And actually the Orion TVs were super well made and they broadcast amazing quality. Lost Navy says Crossface Gaming has like 15 CRT TVs set up. It's magical. I love that. DMC PCRT says, and your Orion has stereo speakers, not the common 9-inch setup. Yeah, it sure does. And the sound quality is amazing on it, actually. And I just love the topic of the resurgence, right? But with resurgence of this stuff, and here's a good example. This is a guy that I really like watching on IG. His name Rerun the 80s. He constantly has a bunch of nostalgic things on his page, but he usually shows like his CRT television, and that baby is beautiful right there. And you could see he's playing Double Dragon, and he's got this whole setup that really throws back to that. And this is what people are doing in the retro gaming community. They're throwing back to the CRT. They're playing this stuff again the way they used to back in the 80s and 90s as you were a kid. And that is super nostalgic. And I love the fact that this whole cycle, you went from tossing these things out on a curb to now kind of finding them again and bringing them back into your home if you're into retro games. Obviously not the basic American family is not going to have a CRT, but someone that wants to play their retro games the way they used to, it's getting common to have a CRT again. Lost in the 80s, DMC CRPT says, I'm fairly certain you're... Oh, wait, I already read that. Will says, Rerun the 80s is great. He has an Instagram and TikTok account. Yeah, I follow him on Instagram, and I just like watching his stuff. This isn't him here, though. But then the problem with CRTs, and not all of them are that bad, but the prices that people want for these things are pretty crazy. And the thing is, you might see like $39 for this CRT, but then they want to charge you $180 to ship it because these things, oh, look, there's my Orion TV. These things are not cheap to ship. I mean, you're talking about like massive machines, but now you go on eBay, there's a list. And if you notice the way people broadcast these, showcase these on eBay is usually to get you wanting to buy it so you can play your old retro games. So a lot of the photos that you see are retro games hooked up to them because all these retro collectors are really into having them back in their lives. So it's really fascinating to see all the photos having retro games in the actual images as well. So I really love seeing that. Had a guy giving away a 36-inch Trinitron. 1 hour later, he relisted it for $100. Someone told him. That's funny. I mean, dude, that 36-inch CRT, that is big. That is scary size television. Um, but yeah, as you can see, like it's commonplace now to find CRTs. One thing I do notice is not a lot of retro stores have CRTs per se. I've seen some retro stores in person that actually do sell CRTs, but not very common. There's a store in Huntington Beach called Retro Games Plus. I've seen a few CRTs at their shop, but normally you'll get a you'll get a CRT at Craigslist, eBay. You might still find someone throwing it out, or the common one I like is when you have a friend or family member. It's like, hey, I have this TV. Do you want it before I throw it out? And I'm like, yes, please. And I've done that before. I have another CRT that someone just gave me because they were going to throw it out. So I really like how, we're keeping this technology alive and people are continuing to buy them now. And there's just been, you go back to the 2000s, no one wanted them anymore. Now you come back around to 2023, probably around the retro gaming boom in 2019 into the pandemic. It's just become a really important piece of the nostalgia genre now. Will says, my CRT is a 27-inch Sanyo. I bought it new at Walmart in 2000. DMC PCRT says, does it have components video? Oh, you're asking him. Let's see. But, that's just like kind of like interesting. And there's been more and more of this explosion of seeing these creators, doing live streams playing on CRTs. You see it all the time on TikTok, and I mean, you got me doing it too. But I love the CRT, and I can't forget that CRTs were also hugely popular in the computer world. You would go to like CompUSA, and they would be selling CRT monitors, and those things were not at all light either. And I remember I had like a huge what is it called, ViewSonic CRT television for my gaming when I was playing EverQuest back in the day. Reliving Retro says, I haven't had a CRT since 2015 probably. Well, you better start looking for one. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, if you want to relive retro like your name says, you might as well get a CRT so you can really relive that, right? That's funny that DMC said that too. So I always do this on Twitter. I always ask a question to people that relates to the topic at hand. So today I asked, how many of you still own a CRT? And I'm going to read a few comments of some awesome people that have engaged this tweet. James says, I ended up getting an LED TV that supported 240p, so I have all my consoles connected to that. I wish I still had my flat screen 21-inch Toshiba CRT my grandmother gave me, but it had such amazing quality. I got 7 of them, says Jim. Yep, I got to keep it, especially for my fighting games and light gun shooters. And that's another thing. You can't use light gun games on LCD televisions. The technology just doesn't work that way. If you want to play a light gun game, you still need a CRT. Here's some photos that people are sharing. I own 3, a Sharp 20-inch, I think, a Sony Trinitron 34-inch, and a Sony Trinitron 36-inch. Son of Char says, I used to own 2 CRTs, so he probably doesn't anymore. Rosie says, I have a 14-inch portable TV VCR in box. It's good condition. Always use it a few times. I was going to use it for its games. Here's a nice setup by Do You Need? Look at that setup that he shared. This is awesome. We have machine CRTs in the game room. 1 is in the spare bedroom and 2 backups in the garage. Wow, this guy is definitely a good example of what I'm talking about. Just Your Average Geek says, still have one, but not sure if it still works. Engage says, yep, have a couple of Trinitrons still running at home. The 22-inch is great for the light gun games. Obviously, Timeless is saying he's got one. Let's see if anyone's got, beautiful photo. Just Game shared this one. Obviously big Castlevania fan too. Davey, what's up? Good to see you, Davey. Davey says, I have 2 40-inch, and I have 2 40-inch and a 13-inch. Good to see you, Davey, man. Great to see you in chat. I managed to snag that Trinitron after a guy got rid of it for nothing. Hey, getting stuff for nothing is great too, right? All right, so let me read a few more here. Here's a picture. Last month I bought this one. Nice. A little Philips. I like the people that are sharing their photos. Look at this. That's a nice one too. I totally realized that I need a CRT TV for my retro console after moving to a new apartment. I'll definitely install it in my room. And he's showing his Xbox collection. This is a nice little setup. Look at this guy. He's sharing his setup. Awesome. Awesome. Love when people are sharing stuff when I ask these questions. That's what it's all about. That's why I ask a lot of questions on Twitter. I just want, it's not about me. It's about the community sharing whatever that topic is. And look how beautiful this. I see a Jaguar. I see Saturn here. I see a Dreamcast. I see a beautiful widescreen Sony Trinitron here with another huge, look at this. That thing is huge on the left there. That thing will break your back. There's no doubt about it. That thing will destroy your back. Here's another beautiful setup, and I love that these people were sharing photos. It really helps with sharing. Beautiful JVC right there. Let's read this one. Hold on, let me read this. I picked up this CRT for free from a family that were just going to trash it a few years ago. It's gotten plenty of use, and I've started buying a lot more retro games and consoles. Well, that is also another thing. Like, I love that people save these, like, otherwise, this thing would be in the trash. But look, he's got this beautiful setup, and he's putting it to good use. Thanks, Dave. It's always good to see you, man. Reliving Retro says, Space Money thing. Yes, of course. DMC CRT says, we need to get you a 13-inch mid-thousands Trinitron, has component input and a good stock audio. Wow. DMC should be, a salesman. Listen to him. He knows what he's doing. Here's a Dragon's Lair. He's got CRT arcade machines. Whoa, look at this guy. Is that his room? Is this like his? Do these count? I think they do. Let me lower the volume here so we can play the video. Look at this guy. He's got this full-on arcade setup. And not to mention that arcade machines use CRT technology as well. Dude, this guy's house is sick. Holy moly. I think it does count. Wow, what a cool setup, man. I'm impressed. I love people sharing this stuff. Nice. Good friend from TikTok, Super, she shared hers right here. Awesome. Love it. I love everyone. I love the love of CRTs. And then this guy's got, look at this. This CRT is just fitting in this cabinet. This cabinet was literally made to fit this exact size. Holy crapola. That's insane. Well, anyway, I'd love to hear, does anyone in chat, if you haven't mentioned already, do you still own a CRT? Is that a part of your life? Do you still play your games the way they were originally intended? Reliving says, get me a job working with you and I'll cover my next excuse. Well, if you're reliving retro, like your name says, you might as well try to find I would recommend, if you live in a small place, reliving retro, get a small TV. My place is literally 700 square feet. I can't put a huge CRT in here. I have no room, but I have a 9-inch television that I showed you before, and that does a trick. I can pop that thing up whenever I need to. So I would recommend look for like a 9-inch or, a smaller like 13-inch television. I'm sure you'll find room for it. That said, everyone, we're kind of close to the end of the show. Just wanted to say that it's been really great to kind of be back more regularly. I had a kind of like a lot of ups and downs this year with a lot of busy life things. So sometimes I'm not always live every Saturday, and that's okay. I'm not going to disappear. The show's not going anywhere, but sometimes I have to just take that Saturday off. But we are on a roll here for this 2023. I want to say that this is the 97th episode of Cafe BTW, a morning gaming podcast. We are 3 episodes away from 100 episodes of this show. And I know people like Genzo, who's my mod, has been around since we started. I think that's a hell of an achievement. I'm really excited to reach the 100 mark. We've been doing this show for right at the start of the pandemic. It literally started like a month before March in 2020. And I think that one thing about my show that I want to share with everyone is that the reason I do it too is because it keeps me creatively in tune. It just makes me feel like I'm part of something, because I can't stream every day. I don't have the time, but I feel like I'm still a streamer. I'm here every Saturday, and maybe it's just an hour, but it's everything to me. And I hope you all enjoy this, whether you're here live or on VOD. We're going to keep cranking these out. We have some guests coming up in the next few weeks as well. I'm excited to do some deep dives with them. I again, if you happen to be, and what's up, Manny, who I will be seeing later, the Valley Retro Game Swap is today at Game Realms in Burbank. It starts at 12 to 4 p.m. It's some great SoCal retro gaming community people. We got people like Game Realms, you got Game Tower people will show up. You got Retro Respawn Store. You got hunters that they got their vendors set up and everything.